Last man to cash.
Experts, however, question whether North Korea does pose an actual threat to the UK. Here's a map showing how far its most sophisticated missile systems can reach. It includes Japan and South Korea, but not Britain. The system in development will also be wide of the mark when it comes to the UK. The distance between London and Pyongyang is nearly 9,000 kilometres, and the missile's potential range is less than 7,000. Well, for further analysis on the issue, I'm joined live by RT's contributor Afshin Rattansi in London. Afshin, well, Britain seems to be pretty safe when it comes to a nuclear threat from North Korea, so why the worry there?
Well, that's not what Kim Jong-un Cameron is saying, as it were. His finance minister says there's no money, but there is obviously $150 billion to pay for this massive nuclear system because it is a fact that North Korea can hit Britain. Even a newspaper here that supports the ruling Conservative Party questioned what Cameron was saying, whether there was some extra intelligence here that no one else seems to know about, or whether he had just misspoken. In any case, the Trident missile system, because of the 1963 Polaris Agreement, means it's not under the control of the British government. The United States controls this system that 85% of people in Scotland don't want anywhere near that area.
And Iran, of course, that's posing a threat too, isn't it, where you're sitting in London?
Obviously, the United States National Intelligence Estimate outlined in detail that Iran was not in any sense producing nuclear weapons, and repeatedly the International Atomic Energy Agency in Vienna has said there's no diversion from the intended goals, and of course those talks continue. No, what we have here is David Cameron maybe even going bananas. He seems to be saying that we need Trident desperately to protect ourselves from North Korea. At the same time, he visits a city where, at one point, there was a debate about whether areas of the city of Glasgow had a similar life expectancy to that of people in Afghanistan. 1 in 4, more than 1 in 4 of children in this country are living in poverty, and yet this $150 billion is required to fend off threats from Iran and North Korea. It's an odd situation, but it's a little odder as the opposition parties all agree with David Cameron, or in the case of his coalition partners, want to do something else. But WMD, Britain must have weapons of mass destruction, otherwise Britain will be destroyed. Seems to be the prevailing ethic among the political elites here.
All right, maybe you poo-poo the threat from North Korea and Iran, but you still do need some sort of nuclear deterrent, don't you? Because you don't know where that threat could come from in the future. Well,
of course, that is Kim Jong-un's point exactly that you're making and David Cameron made, in the sense that Kim Jong-un says, I need a nuclear deterrent. Look what happened in Libya. Look what happened to countries which renounce their nuclear threat if they want to have an independent, sovereign nation. This is the argument of Kim Jong-un. And as to whether the idea of deterrence works, military generals have been saying all around that the wars that Britain fights these days are fought by conventional forces. They're hugely under threat from budget cuts, and of course having a lone submarine right now somewhere around the earth with a British flag on it, armed to the teeth with nuclear weapons, that's not going to protect British interests. And the fact that so many Scottish people want to get rid of that base along with its 8,000 jobs, this is a very recent poll, shows that if anything, citing a nuclear base in Britain makes Britain a target for militants of any type of persuasion.
And just briefly, you touched on the cost of all of this. The economy, of course, in the UK, really in dire straits at the moment. How will that go down with the taxpayer if Cameron got his way to increase spending on Trident or to revamp the whole system?
One doesn't want to over-egg the idea of the mainstream media, but it is amazing the strength of belief amongst an elite within this country that we need to spend that $150 billion on the nuclear weapons. That's more important. And as for the middle classes, the working classes of this country, we shouldn't really care about them at all, as we saw in the latest cuts which the British government just brought in, which are the worst cuts and the worst rearrangement of the welfare state, arguably since the end of the Second World War.
Afshin, thanks very much indeed. Afshin Rattansi, live there in London.